Hey, let me ask you two questions. Number one, do you have a mentor? And number two, are you mentoring somebody else? You see, today we come to the end of the book of Joshua. And at the end of the book of Joshua, things are going very well for the Israelites and for Joshua. But the sad thing is, as we flip to the next book, the book of Judges, and we come to Judges chapter 2, verse 10, we learn that things did not go well for the next generations. In fact, we read this in verse 10. After Joshua and his whole generation had died, another generation grew up who knew neither the Lord nor what he had done for Israel. In other words, think about it. This generation grew up that did not know God. And in fact, they grew up not ever learning about all the miraculous, crazy stuff that God had done. They didn't know that Israel had crossed the Jordan on dry ground. They didn't know that Israel had marched around the city of Jericho and the walls fell down. They didn't know about the sin of Achan and all the pain and the suffering that it had caused, and how once that sin was dealt with, then God worked again in their midst. They didn't know these things, and in fact, they didn't know God. They didn't have a relationship with Him. Well, the same is true for many generations today. People grow up and they don't know the Lord. People grow up and they've never heard the stories of God and what God has done. And what's really sad is when they grow up that way and yet their parents or their grandparents had grown up in families of very tight, intimate relationships with Jesus. And so here's the question. Do you have a mentor? Is there somebody in your life that is speaking into your life, telling you about who God is and what He's like? Telling you about all the crazy things that God has done in their life and about the people of God and the crazy things that God has done in their lives, and so that you might learn about God, come to faith in God, and know who He is and what He's like. It's critical that you have a mentor. Throughout the years, I've had many mentors. Right now, I have one that's 87 years old. He's an older guy, and he speaks into my life, and he tells me about the crazy things that God has done for him. And it encourages me on my journey. And he also tells me about Jesus, who He is and what He's like. And that penetrates into my heart in a special way, as this elderly gentleman plays a very significant role in my life. In addition, I have a number of people that I mentor. You know, those people that are younger than me, the next generation, and I speak into their lives in the same way. You see, the reality is mentoring is a critical component of the Christian journey. Sometimes it's also referred to as discipleship. And some people like to say discipleship and mentoring are different. But I don't care what you do. What you need to be doing is having somebody speak into your life. So do you have a mentor, a solid Christian individual from the generation ahead of you that is telling you who God is, what He's like, and the crazy kinds of things that God has done in his life or her life? And then, are you doing the same for the next generation? If the answer is no to either of these questions, then I challenge you today to find a mentor. Find one. They're so easy. I've never had anyone turn me down when I went to them and said, "Hey, I've noticed that you're a mature spiritual individual and I was wondering if you'd mentor me." No, you're an idiot. Get out of here. No, they don't say that. They say, I would be honored. It would give me such value to be able to speak into your life. So get off the couch and ask someone to mentor you. And then secondly, begin mentoring the generations behind you. Go to them and say, hey, I was wondering if you would be interested in having a mentor. So many young individuals today would actually love to have one. They're just too afraid to ask. So let's change things. Let's begin mentoring people that are behind us and seeking out mentors from people that are ahead of us. And I believe that through that, our faith will transition from generation to generation to generation in a way that it oftentimes doesn't. My name is Eric, and I am the 5-Minute Pastor.